the annual function got done, I had two mothers and, two little girls, I think third grade, come up to me, and the mothers were like, my daughter looks up to you and she says, I want to be like Anushka ma'am. So now amongst the kids, they discussed cost price, they discussed selling price, they discussed discount.
Yeah.
Right? And no textbook, no teacher writing on the board, nothing. Amongst themselves, they discuss, okay, you tell me what is discount. But that should the case should be that every child is constantly raising hands, asking 100 questions, no matter how, small the question is.
If you could design your dream school, what would it have?
We wouldn't have set classrooms with fixed benches, no uniforms, less structure.
Namaste and a very warm welcome to Women of Wonder by Reema Mahajan. I'm your host Reema, and Women of Wonder is our podcast to bring to you stories of empowered and ambitious women so that we can all take inspiration from them. Today we deep dive into the world of education. Now, being from IIT Delhi and I'm Bangalore, I think I'm the biggest champion of education because I feel it lays the foundation of a strong future. I'm here joined by a powerful, dynamic lady, Miss Anushka Malpani, who is the trustee at Dhruv Global School. Now, Dhruv Global School is launching their first international campus in Alwar Shah South very, very soon, bringing to us the values of modern technology, global thinking, and ancient yogic wisdom. Now, by merging edge technology with yogic values, Dhruv Global School is shaping a new generation of mission-driven, future-ready leaders. We are here to deep dive into their thought process of what is education, the modern-day education, and how it is shaping the future generation. We are going to deep dive into the basic values and visions of all of this with Miss Anushka Malpani. It's going to be an amazing episode. Stay tuned to it. Welcome to the show, Anushka.
Thank you so much for having me, Reema.
It's excellent. It's amazing how you've traveled all the way from India, and we are super excited to have you in town. My first question to you is, I'd love to know a little bit more about your journey. How did the transformation happen into the field of education? And what were you doing? Where were you hiding before this?
So, hi, I'm Anushka Malpani. I am the director at Dhruv Global Schools. So, it's very funny. As a teenager, I've always enjoyed teaching kids. And it could be a very intimate, small setting where I'm teaching them dance or I'm teaching them public speaking. But that point of time, it never occurred to me that education is an arena I can explore. You've always been told to do science or do commerce or get into business. And it was so funny. So at that point of time, I just left education. I never even thought about it. Then I got into the casual, normal, you get into the corporate space. So I worked at Amazon for a bit. And then during COVID, I was working at a KPO firm where I was doing QC for a software. And after COVID hit, I had the chance to get into education. I explored it for 6 months, and that's when I knew that this is the field I want to be for the rest of my life. And I remember the first year of school, the first annual function that had happened under my guidance. Right after the annual function got done, I had two mothers and two little girls, I think third grade, come up to me, and the mothers were like, my daughter looks up to you and she says, I want to be like Anushka ma'am.
Wow.
So it's
what
that
a
day, and
compliment.
it's, today's day I haven't looked back. And my journey for the last 4 years has been very fulfilling. It has been very, very enriching. And started off with a little challenges because it's a very new space, and you have so many lives on your hands for the next 10, 12 years. So it's a very big task, but it's also very rewarding.
Yes.
So I'm really enjoying being in education.
Wonderful. So Anushka, how can school shape future leaders? Can you give me some insights on what do you do at school to build up?
So, Reema, we started a very unique experiment a year back. It's an excellence program within Dhruv. It's called 2 Sigma, where there are mixed aged cohorts. So, a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and 5-year-old is in one cohort. 6, 7, 8-year-old, they're in one cohort. There's no first standard, second standard. We have focused on 3 main subjects: math, science, and English, right?
Okay.
And all the other subjects are going on simultaneously, but they've taken a back end. Now, even these topics, and with a lot of AI, right? So each student gets their own tab. They spend 25 minutes on that, and there is personalized individual learning. where all of the results are captured and the analysis is done. Now, entire learning over here happens very practical and hands-on.
Okay.
So at one point when we wanted to teach kids length and breadth, we ordered furniture from IKEA. We gave them the manuals. We put them in groups. And let me remind you, these are 3, 4, and 5-year-olds.
Right.
And with supervision, obviously, we gave them Allen keys. We gave them the manual and we told them, you have 3 days. 3 of you have to make this desk. 3 of you have to make this table, right? And while making those tables and desks and benches, and the teacher kept asking them, what is this height? What is this breadth? What is the length? What is wood? And while making that furniture, the kids learned so many concepts, right? So our approach is very different. I remember one of the Rakhi festival was there, and we wanted to teach kids about money, right? So a lot of financial literacy we've started from the younger ages. So we gave the kids around 50, 60 rupees. We told them, make your own Rakhi, go to your societies, go to the neighborhood, sell those Rakhis and bring it back to us, whatever money you get. So they did that over the weekend. They came back to school. One kid said, I sold the Rakhi for this much, but then I gave this much discount. The other kid said, we sold 10 Rakhis for this much and 8 Rakhis for this much. And one girl said, I sold these many Rakhis and I got this much change. So now amongst the kids, they discussed cost price, they discussed selling price, they discussed discount, right? And no textbook, no teacher writing on the board, nothing. Amongst themselves, they discuss, okay, you tell me what is discount. You tell me what is cost price. You tell me what is selling price. You tell me how did you negotiate, right? Imagine a 3-year-old talking about negotiation.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So it's a very unique approach. And over the last 1 year, we've really seen this excel. And we want this to become the regular curriculum at Dhruv. Right now, we're doing it with a small group of kids. But because the program has done so well in the last 1 year, it's something we slowly want to make it, a regular curriculum at Dhruv where all kids are doing this. And I think that again is the future of education.
And I think the two important skills you mentioned there, sales skills and financial literacy, those are life skills. And doesn't matter which business, which profession, what you do when you grow up. Those are skills which are handy in everything that you do.
Absolutely.
So it's great when we were never started it, and when I joined a job, it was so different to what I had learned in my education. And I come from a very reputed background of education, but I had not learned the practical job skills of how do I negotiate, how do I save money. Okay, now I have a salary, how do I save it? So it's great that the kids start getting to know it at an early age, and it gets imbibed into them. Wonderful.
Thank you.
So talk to, as you say, education is super rewarding, right? It is also the foundation of our future generations. Talk to us about the values and the vision that you have while setting Dhruv, global schools. Why are you expanding? Why are you here in Dubai? And how did Dubai happen?
So Dhruv's vision, the one statement is creating global leaders with yogic values. Now, academics is a very small part of your entire education journey. And these yogic values are values that you'll hold for life, even professionally or personally, no matter what path you choose, right? So some of the yogic values are fearlessness, perseverance, confidence, cleanliness, and so on and so forth. So there are 26 such yogic values. And all our schools, not just the ones in India, but even the ones that we have in Dubai and the ones that we will be coming up with, these yogic values remain constant. Right? So a lot of focus on holistic development and how we can bring about these values in kids. Right? No matter what path you choose in the future, these values remain with you. And to become a great leader, you need to have these certain values instilled in you. So this is one thing that we really stand by. And for the last so many years, I think Dhruv was started almost 20 years back, the first branch, which is in India. And at that point of time, values was a very, modern term. At that point, academics, math and science and your marks, your results is what mattered. But then my father-in-law, who founded Dhruv 20 years back, he was so ahead of his time, and he wanted these yogic values to be instilled in children from the pre-primary. So every morning when kids come to school, every month they have one yogic value. And all the topics, all the subjects are revolving around that one yogic value. Whether they're sitting in the mess and having their meals, whether they have their assemblies, whether they're doing science and even math, the topics and subjects are revolving around that one yogic value. So over time, over 10 years or even 6 years, the child is, imbibed that every single day, that becomes their lifestyle then. So I think that has been a wonderful journey. And we've seen kids, transform from their pre-primary, and when they leave through in their 10th or 12th grade, they've transformed into these beautiful individuals.
So you are in the business of transforming little kids into beautiful human beings, right? And I think your whole infrastructure plays an important role, especially the teachers. How do you select your staff, and what do you think makes a great teacher?
So firstly, we don't see teachers as teachers. They are mentors, they are facilitators. And teachers should be ones who are also always learning, right? So education never stops. Learning, you need to be learners for life. So when we are picking teachers, one, there has to be certain passion and drive. That your remuneration is one part of it. But there has to be that drive that, the teacher goes an extra mile to do a little extra for the students. So we have a process, and we've been following this for the last 18 years. There's first round is the telephonic round, which is done by one person. Then the second round is done by the principal. There's a demo. Then the round is done by me. Then it goes to Yash, who's my husband. And then finally my father-in-law. So it's a very long process. And each one of us, we're very different as educators. So I have 10 questions which are very different from what my husband Yash would ask and what my father-in-law would ask. And then the three of us sit and discuss that, she is right for Dhruv. And then she, becomes a part of our family. So this is the process of selecting our teachers. And teachers are like, Dhruv is a family. The culture at Dhruv is very open. There is no hierarchy that, a teacher, if she has to reach me, needs to, go to the principal, go to the coordinator. At school, if the teacher sees me walking around, she'll just stop me, ma'am, I want to talk to you for 2 minutes, or if I want to talk to them. So it's a very open culture. It's a very, we share, openly, honestly, whatever is there, whether it's about the school, it's about the students, or even if personally they're dealing with something, they are so comfortable coming and sharing it with us. And I think that is when we succeeded as a school.
Yeah. So building that includes, whole environment where everybody is kind of trusting everybody, isn't it? Now, coming to trust, right, and inclusivity, right? I want to pick up on that topic. How is Dhruv becoming an inclusive school? What are you focusing on? And especially in Dubai, and I think worldwide, there is a focus on being more inclusive. What are you doing in that direction?
So for me, after entering Dubai, it was a very different culture. It was a lot to learn from the culture over here. So at school, we have almost students from 23 different, backgrounds.
Okay.
And each background, each culture is so beautiful. So we have students come and discuss their culture. So today, one student comes up, discusses, talks about certain festivals that they are celebrating, and then everybody celebrates it together. The next month when there's another festival. So all kids are included in celebrating and understanding all cultures. And for me as an educator, I am learning, so much about so many new cultures. So that is one way of doing it. We also involve the parents a lot, because they are so strongly rooted in their cultures. So we invite the parents to school. We have them come, talk to kids, talk to the teachers, so that the entire community is celebrating everybody together. So I think that it's wonderful.
So talking about parents, Anushka, what is the one thing that you wish every parent knew?
I have honestly a very strong message for parents. Kids are curious.
Okay.
And they're always wanting to learn.
Yeah.
So when your kids are asking you questions, don't shush them. Typically in a school, we are bounded by the curriculum. But we should see the curriculum as a guiding path. And if the child is wandering off that path, it's wonderful, and we should expect that, and we should encourage that, because it's all about the process. It's the process that matters. The outcome is all secondary. So parents, if your kids are curious, please let them keep asking questions. Ask them questions back, and I think that's the best way to create leaders who are always thinkers.
Wonderful. So on the path of creating leaders, curriculum is a part of it. Grades are important, but what are the other 3 skills or 4 skills that are more important than grades?
So, see, grades are, every school has exams, and unfortunately, grades are something you do have to get into a good university, get into good companies. Yeah. But 3 skills that I feel are very, very essential apart from your grades. The most important skill, which I think will remain constant throughout all fields, is the ability to learn on your own. Right? We no longer live in a world where education stops once you enter the workforce or you start your own business. The world around us is changing too fast. There's new technology coming up. There are new methods of learning. And to really stay put in the game, you need to learn how to adapt. So I think self-learning is the most important skill that one needs to know. And this, needs to be taught to kids from the younger age, from their foundational years. Second, I think, would be problem solving. As per statistics, by 2030, almost 85% of the jobs that will be created are not known to humans yet.
Yes.
So as a school, we don't know what we're preparing the kids for. So it's these skills that will remain constant, no matter what path or what career you enter. So problem solving. Third would be your social emotional learning. Based on the last couple of years, or especially post-COVID, kids are struggling with a lot of issues mentally, emotionally, and very young kids in their first grade, second grade, and it's really affecting their personality. The number of people going to meeting the school counselor is increasing drastically, And so your social emotional well-being, how to regulate your emotions, is one thing that really needs to be taught to kids, right? Because there is so much stress outside, when you enter the workforce, and people don't know how to manage that stress, and then they end up taking very drastic measures. So I think that would be the third most important skill. Another skill I think is important is critical thinking, creativity. Schools kill creativity, they are like, if the curiosity bit, when you're asking questions, no, not now, not during the class, go home and look it up, then that's where you've killed the curiosity, you've killed that creative thinking. So let kids be creative. Don't tell them that they are wrong again and again, So I think these are very important skills.
I'm glad you said the statement, schools kill the creativity
They
of
really
kids,
do.
right?
It's very
And as an
unfortunate.
educator and obviously director of a leading school, it comes from you, because that's what I was worried about, right? There is a curriculum, there is a course that you need to stick to, there is a presentation that the teacher has. But how do you make sure at Dhruv that the teachers are going beyond the curriculum, right? They are nurturing the kids to be future leaders. What happens? How is the school set up for that?
First thing, the teachers need to be very open, right? Most of the teachers are, I am right, you are wrong. So the teachers need to be trained, or a lot of teachers are open-minded, right? A lot of kids come up, and I want to share one instance with you. We were talking about national animals of different countries, and one kid came up and said, unicorn is a national animal. So the teacher's like, unicorns don't exist.
Right.
And then you're like, no, ma'am, I'm telling you, unicorns do. Like, it is a national animal. And then she actually went and looked it up, and New Zealand considers unicorns as their national. So,
My daughter will be happy hearing that.
So, it's such small things that, we don't realize that educators as teachers, we're like, what is this kid saying? And what is this unicorn? But, let the kid be. Leave them unsupervised. Give them the resources.
Right.
Let them think. Let them be creative.
Yes.
Create a very nice environment for them where they're not scared to be judged.
Yes.
That they're not scared. So many kids are scared to raise their hand.
Yeah.
That ma'am will tell us that, we're scared that what will she tell us, or she'll, put us down. But that the case should be that every child is constantly raising hands, asking 100 questions, no matter how, small the question is. So I think building that culture and environment in your school is very essential.
So building that culture and environment in the school and shaping future leaders is super, super important. But I wanted to talk about something which is popping up now in the new age technology, right? And this is what you and I probably haven't studied at school. And it's the world of AI.
Yes.
Right? I hear this, and again, our school, especially I went to old school India and a CBSE school and Ratta Maro school, right? I call CBSE the Ratta Maro school, don't hate me for that. But I think for history and geography and all, we used to know, we have to learn these pages and then only you can crack an exam. That was what. The teaching today has changed.
Yes.
And especially new with the advent of AI and ChatGPTs being easily accessible. Now my 9-year-old knows how to use ChatGPT because it was taught in his class.
Absolutely.
Where do you think this is going, and how are you preparing for it?
Okay. So whether we like it or not, AI and technology is the future of not just education, just generally around the world. For the last 1 year, we have included a lot of technology and AI in our teaching, learning, which is happening at school. So I'll tell you what AI is. It's definitely going to bring in a revolution in education. So what AI does is it basically allows us to create practices, reading exercises, assessments, which are tailored to that individual student's level to make it the right amount of challenging to keep that student engaged. Right? So there is this one very nice rule. It's called the Goldilocks rule, which states that humans experience peak motivation when they are doing tasks that are right on the edge of their current ability. So not too hard, not too easy, but just right there.
Yeah, they're being challenged enough.
Yeah. Like for example, when you go to the gym, if today 5 kgs I did 10 reps, tomorrow I do 2 more. Then the next day 2 more, 2 more. So you don't push yourself so much that you get demotivated to not do it at all. Right? So in a class of 40 kids or 30 kids, it's practically impossible for the teacher to keep track of each student's current abilities, their pace of learning, their interest. If Anushka is doing well in English but probably struggling with math, it's very difficult to do that with a lot of 40 kids. So this is where AI comes in, right? Every child has an individual personalized learning pace, right? So if today I'm doing slow with math, I don't need to rush or skip concepts just because the rest of the 39 kids are gone ahead of that. So that is one part of AI where there is adaptable learning for each of the kids. The second part where AI comes in is the output. The detailed analysis of each student's performance, right? So in the last 1 year, if I take an example of one class, today I can tell between the 10 kids, each kid's detailed analysis with graphs and charts, that Anushka in English doing well in vocabulary, grammar, but struggling with sentence formation, right? Rima doing well in fractions, but struggling somewhere with mensuration.
Right.
So, and it gives such a detailed analysis, and when this is given to the teacher, it's so much easier for her to understand that, okay, now I need to sit with Anushka and help her do this. Even for the parent, for the kid to go back home and understand, okay, the parent knows, so Anushka is doing well here, we can let it be. Focus a little more on sentence formation. So, and AI has helped my teachers so much. And I don't know, parents are against it. Your screen time is increasing. Kids are always on. See, that is the future. So if that 25 minutes the kid while eating is watching, very random YouTube shorts, might as well use AI in the right manner, use technology in the right manner. And I think it's going to be fabulous. So I'm all for AI, and I tell parents we've done teacher training for ChatGPT. I don't want my teachers to sit and waste time making PPTs or PDFs and all of that. So we personally did a training. We told them how to use ChatGPT the right way. Make your forms, make your worksheets on that. Save time. Use that time to sit with the kids, have discussions, interact with them.
Right. Amazing. And so you're almost imbibing AI into your whole school system, isn't it? And using it positively to grow the students, to focus on the students' strengths and their development areas, and giving teachers the ammunition almost to be more AI friendly and using it constructively. That's amazing. Now I want to touch on one question. And your last 24 hours, you've been in 2 countries, India and Dubai. Tell me the differences between India and Dubai, and what are the best parts and that you love about both of them?
Okay. I'm going to start with Dubai.
All right. We always love Dubai.
I love Dubai. I've only been in Dubai. I mean, I come and go. I love Dubai though. The culture of Dubai, the people, their mindsets, they're such open people. They're such helpful people. And there is so much diversity over here. I remember initially when we were setting up the school, Dubai is very new for us. And we reached out to a couple of people who are in education, or someone who's, some vendors for school. And just apart from helping us with what we had contacted them for, they really went, out of the box and went that 2 miles extra and helped us with other things also. And this is something very rare when that you have nothing to gain back, but you do a little extra to help somebody out. And this I've seen in Dubai like throughout, not just with a couple of people. So I think that is something that Yash and I both learned a lot from, that people here are very helpful. The cultural diversity is amazing. The systems that KHDA has set, the parameters for running the school in the best and the most efficient manner, I think they're outstanding. Their safety and security measures at school, I think, is unbeatable. And that is something we've tried replicating back in India, because safety is a very important part of, you have thousands of kids at school, and the safety of each kid is so important. So how can you set processes to make sure that, without me personally being there, or the entire team being there constantly keeping an eye, how things happen very smoothly at school? So I think that is one very big takeaway. Second is how inclusion and the entire topic of how we can help the specially abled kids, or the kids with special needs. I think UAE or Dubai, the KHD has done a fabulous job on that. I think it's unbelievable. It's great. And that is, again, something that I want to take back to India. So yeah, these are my two takeaways from setting up schools in Dubai. And for India, I think India is it's a huge market, and it's really, really growing, because there's so much of IT crowd there. And I'm so happy that the younger parents are way more open-minded about education. So, they also come and they're like, listen, little bit, keep the textbooks aside, do a little more practical learning, taking the kids outside, teaching topics in nature, taking them to museums, taking them to offices, corporate offices, and manufacturing units, teaching them topics there.
Yeah.
So all in all, I'm really happy that, to see the track that education is taking around the world.
Wonderful. I think education is revolutionizing everything. Everything is changing there, but I think it's much more advanced than when I used to go in school, and completely agree. Love India and Dubai both. We're going to move on to our next round, and I call this the Direct Dil Se, which is basically the quick question answer. And we didn't tell these questions to her at all. So we're going to just fire and share whatever comes to your mind, right? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. One thing you would tell your younger self as a student.
Learning happens a lot more outside school.
Completely agree. One secret every parent should know to raise a successful child.
Leave the child unsupervised. Let the kid be.
Really?
Yeah, let the kid be. Let the kid learn.
Okay.
And one more thing, like play. Play is a very important part of a child's life. Whether they're in preschool or whether they're in 12th grade, let the kids play.
Yeah, and I think today's world, there's so much structure and extra classes in schools happening, right? Children don't get that time of free play only. Like that too. Like we used to go down, like I used to go in my gully and play with the kids all around. That doesn't happen anymore today.
No, it's very essential. And that 45 minutes of play, really changes your entire day.
Yeah, and helps you grow socially.
It does, absolutely. So I think leave your kids unsupervised while they are playing, not unsupervised.
Yeah, in a safe environment.
In a safe environment, absolutely.
Wonderful. If you could change one thing about education, what would it be?
If I could change one thing about education, structured curriculum. I think if a little more freedom and open hands are given to educators, I think there's a lot more that we can do.
Wonderful.
So a little more, less structure.
The funniest thing a student has ever said to you?
The funniest thing a student has ever said to me.
We can skip this question if it's a tough one. I would say.
No, it's not a tough one.
Yeah.
But I mean, I look like a student myself.
Yeah.
So that is something.
Did somebody take you up for
that did happen with students and with teachers at one point. One of the teachers just put their hands and go to class.
You
and I'm like,
go to class.
They're like, oh, sorry, we thought you were a student. So I think that would
don't
probably...
wear the color of your school dress, please, whatever it is.
Now stop. That was the one last time I did
exactly.
that.
Don't go in and maybe thinking wearing a global, jumper of your school. Don't do that. Give us one tip on managing screen time versus study time.
I think supervised screen time is necessary, but it should be regulated screen time. So 20 minutes a day is absolutely fine as long as it's regulated and it's used for the right reasons.
Brilliant. If you could design your dream school, what would it have? I'm sure you're already designing one, but how would it be different?
We wouldn't have set classrooms with fixed benches, open spaces, co-working spaces where kids are discussing, interacting, no uniforms, less structure, and a lot more, cooking and pottery and a lot of nature and a lot of play.
Yeah. Wonderful. No, less structured and more open play.
Yeah,
and
nice
come find
labs,
yourself.
yeah.
Yes, wonderful. I know you manage a lot of teachers already, but if you could switch places with a teacher for a day, what would you do in the class?
Keep the textbooks aside.
Nice.
For a day. I would really
I
keep
think
the
the kids will
textbooks
love
aside.
you, Anishka.
Yeah. They do.
Yeah, the kids absolutely
They come
will
to
love
me
you.
when-
Here is an amazing teacher not telling us to study, and she's so open to us just learning in our
No,
own
I
way.
just want to keep the books aside and talk to them.
Just talk to them.
Just talk
and-
to
yeah,
them.
Exactly.
It could be the same topic, but have a
Yeah.
very different angle to it. You know, when you were talking about how geography and history we were
Yeah,
ratta karo,
ratta maro.
and you read that 12 pages, exam mein kya aata tha, in which year this happened and
Yes,
which place.
yes.
So instead of that, if we're talking about the war, instead of the date and the time, I want to ask them if you were in their place,
Yeah.
or if you were in Hitler's place, how would you go about it? And there's no right or wrong answer to it.
Yeah, but there is a thought pattern which goes
Yeah, just
behind
and I would
it,
understand
right?
40
You're
kids
understanding.
answering 40 different things. I'll
Yes.
understand with what angle the child is thinking.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Not in our zamana. This
Yeah.
age is definitely. What's your favorite school memory of all times?
My favorite school memory would be farewells. 10th and 12th
yes,
farewells. They're
yes.
so emotional. And
Yes.
you know, for so many, you've seen these kids
Yes.
grow, like reach their 10th and 12th. And on that last day when you're sitting with them, and
Yes.
I know each kid in and out now.
Yes.
And you stay connected, you know, till they get into college, they get into university, whatever. Then they give you a call, you know.
Yeah.
So I think these farewells are just very emotional and very touching. And I
Yeah.
really, really like attending those farewells.
I totally agree. If you have a difficult student, how do you handle it? What do you tell yourself?
So I don't think any student is difficult. Our approach towards that student really needs to change, right?
Okay.
So there are, for example, kids who are very hyperactive. Does not mean that the kid has a problem. You know, as facilitators, as educators, we need to know how to approach them. So you let them out, you let them play a lot more, and through that play, you teach them.
Right.
I have one actually very funny story to share. We had one student who had written a very funny, without any name, a very funny but a little nasty paragraph about one of the girls in the class. But it was funny. Okay, there was humor in it, and it was not right. So instead of sending the kid out of the class and punishing them or suspending that student, we called the kid to the cabin, and I was like, "Do you enjoy stand up? Like, do you like like writing?" So he was like, "Yeah." So I'm like, "I'll give you a task. We'll start a stand up club in school, but there are 2-3 restrictions: no vulgar language, no disrespectful language." And today that kid is doing so well. If, you know, once a month in the assembly, he comes and he does stand up. He's running the stand up club.
Right.
And now he's telling his team that no vulgar language, no disrespecting this, no names. So you see, punishment was nowhere. We just told him that do comedy, do stand up, but do it the right way. So I think our approach is,
I think you configured his talent, you molded his talent the right way, right? You showed him a direction where he could use his creativity of writing into something more constructive.
So have you heard of Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory?
No, please.
It's one of our philosophies, which and he states that every child is unique and different, and every child has that one talent, right? So every child is unique. Somebody is good with sports. Somebody is good. Somebody has an analytical mind, right? So we need to observe and see what is there in that kid.
Right.
Pick that skill, and then hone that skill till the child passes out. So that is what we do at Dhruv. Till 3rd grade, every child does every sport, every performing art. In 3rd grade, we ask the teacher and the student, out of these sports, which one do you pick? So if Anishka picks badminton today, from 3rd grade till my 12th grade, I will only play badminton.
Yeah.
And by the time I leave 12th, there is
You'll
one
get very
skill
good
that
at
I'm
it.
extremely good at.
Yes.
Because in today's world, to really stand out, you need to be extremely good at that one thing. So I think it's a wonderful theory, and we've been practicing it, and it's doing wonders for kids.
Wonderful. So you touched badminton there, right? So tell me about extracurriculars at school. So beyond the curriculum, what options do the kids have to pursue their interest areas?
So, Dhruv has a state-of-the-art, world-class facilities. We have an international shooting range.
Okay,
And,
that's
yeah.
new. I've never
Yeah.
heard of that.
Yeah.
That's
So
I think that's
so
one
we
of the
always we
concerns.
wanted to pick one sport
Right.
that is not, nobody is picking it, like it's not growing, it's one of the underlying sports. So all our campuses in India, we have international shooting ranges. Every school has national level from Maharashtra. The students that have represented Maharashtra are from Dhruv. They're all national level shooters. We have rifle and pistol shooting. We have 8 badminton massive courts. So sports is given a lot of emphasis at Dhruv. In fact, every morning when the child enters school, across all branches, first 45 minutes has to be sports every single day. And even during exams, after the exam gets over, they have to play 45 minutes and then go home.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Because kids, they go home, tuition jate, and they're here, they're studying. You need that 45 minutes
Yeah.
to rewire your brain, and that really energizes you.
Yes.
Then you're ready to sit and focus and study.
Right.
So for last 20 years, 45 minutes of play is just non-negotiable.
Okay.
Certain sports like swimming. Swimming is a life skill. Sports is secondary, it's a life skill first. So swimming is compulsory for all kids up to a certain grade where they know the basic, right? And every child has to play one sport or a performing art.
Right.
So performing art also, we've picked one dance form which is not known to a lot of people, which is Odissi dance.
Okay.
So we have an Odissi dance team in every school,
Wonderful.
and we really want to pick up forms that have so much scope but are kept aside.
Yeah.
So a lot of emphasis on sports. In the last 1 year, almost 1,000 plus students have gotten national and international level medals, whether it's in
amazing.
yoga or whether it's in rifle shooting, swimming, athletics.
Wonderful. I mean, that sounds like, and I think we can't wait to have you all, getting started in Dubai, because I haven't heard about Odissi dance form in Dubai, and I haven't definitely not heard about the shooting range in a school in Dubai. There are shooting ranges outside, of course, which you can go privately. Now, what's the best, when your students come to you, Anushka, what's the best advice you give to students who are graduating? What's the life advice you would give them?
That first is always be learners for life, right? Don't stop learning.
Yes.
Right. I'm learning every day. I learn from them. Second is don't stress out. Right. Kids get stressed so easily with the smallest of things, and it's also a message for parents that let the kids be. They'll figure it out. Indian parents have a habit of sitting on their child's head. But let them be. They'll figure it out. Be self-learners and be kind. Be kind to people. Yeah. I think that's the message.
And then my last question to you, Anushka. If you had to describe Dhruv Global School in one word, what would that word be?
Okay. So I don't have a word, but I do have a phrase, which is education done the way I would want it done for my own kid, right? It's so funny. So many educators and school leaders that I've met who are running, wonderful schools. And when I ask them that, what is your kid doing? And they're like, no, my kid is not in this school. I get back home at 3:34 and then I homeschool my child. Okay. And this is a constant discussion Yash and I have, that if we ever have a kid, and our school needs to be so good that I'm so confident to put my own child in my own school. So I think that is when you've succeeded as a school, when you are so confident to put your child in that environment. So I think that is very, very important.
Well, that's a beautiful thought, right? You are building an infrastructure and a system where you're going to be proud to put your own kids in the same school. And I think that stands the biggest test of time. Be learners throughout. Be kind to others is the message from the director of Dhruv Global School, Miss Anushka, who joined us today. I hope you all enjoyed this podcast. There is bits of learnings for all us teachers, parents and students in this podcast. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to our channel and share it with people who need to hear this. Thank you so much. We'll be back with another Women of Wonder very, very soon.